afternoon and just do a little recap and we'll have Steve Phillips today later. Let's start the afternoon and do a little recap of the whole scenario going on as far as the deadline is concerned and what transpired and what's the most important significant aspect of it and who did what and everything else, and see where we feel these teams are here as we get ready, for the down the stretch baseball. The American League East, I mean, the Red Sox and Yankees did what the Red Sox and Yankees had to do. The Red Sox needed a second baseman. They found one. Red Sox probably needed a little depth in their rotation. They found something in Eovaldi. They probably could have used a little better scenario in the bullpen. They didn't go crazy there. And the Red Sox basically just kind of, have 40 over 500. They not do too much. But the Red Sox, kind of tweaked this and tweaked that. The Yankees, needing a big pitcher more than the Red Sox did, really couldn't find one that was going to be, like at DeGrom, that was going to be lights out. So what the Yankees did, they did the next best thing. They got the best pitcher out there who's a good 5-inning guy in Happ. And then they, fortified their bullpen, partly in a way to make sure that Zach Britton didn't end up in Houston or Boston and ended up with the Yankees. The rich get richer from a bullpen perspective, and the Yankees do that. They did not get an outfield insurance, so of course, with Judge out of there for a couple of weeks. So they left themselves maybe a little vulnerable. If you look at the 4 games this weekend upcoming in Fenway, we'll save that for tomorrow. They're still those 2 teams, the cream of the crop, and baseball is concerned. In the NL, the Dodgers, did something that the Dodgers have not really done in the last couple of years, and that is fortify themselves with a couple of big players. Machado, obviously, early, before the second half began, right after the All-Star game, and then, of course, the move late yesterday for Dozier, second baseman from the Twins, who's got power. Dodgers don't hit left-hand pitching, but Dozier's a guy that strikes out a lot, a low batting average with a 300 on-base percentage, and the Dodgers have been sort of an interchangeable team with, a lot of guys contributing, and they've gotten away from that here in the last whatever it might be. Machado's going to play the infield, 9 out of 12 games so far at shortstop, and Dozier's going to play second base every day, and the Dodgers usually like to maneuver a Chris Taylor here, a Max Muncy there, a Justin Turner here, an Austin Burns there, and the Dodgers have taken a little of that away with the additions of the 2 aforementioned players, and the Dodgers are only 6-6 with Machado, and they have just lost 3 games in a row. So we keep an eye on L.A. The NL is wide open as far as postseason play is concerned. The American League is top-heavy. The NL, to me, they're playing for second place. I don't see an NL team winning a World Series this year, and I know that in baseball, best of 7, anything can happen, and they've been around long enough to see enough of the 69 Miracle Mets to know the best team doesn't always win in September. Or in October, the hottest team does. So who knows down the road what can I know? The 2006 Cardinals won 83 games and won a championship. Same with the 87 Twins, who won 85 games, beating Detroit and then beating the Cardinals. So you never know, but to me, the NL team this year is going to be playing for second place once we get to late October. I don't like anybody that I see in the NL. Now, I think it's much more interesting because you got theoretically 7 to 8 teams with a realistic chance of making the playoffs. And I'll include the Nationals in that department, too. They did win today after they put basically 3 touchdowns on the board yesterday, 4 touchdowns. They did beat the Mets again today. The Nationals, the Phillies, the Braves, the Brewers, and the Cubs. I am not putting the Pirates there right now. They're 7 out in a loss. And then the 3 teams in the NL West, I'm not putting San Francisco there. So, I mean, that is essentially 7 to 8 teams, depending where you stand, as far as the Nats are concerned. The American League, to me, is still 3 teams. I mean, yes, I know Cleveland, and I understand baseball. It's got a fun, and they got pitching, so you never know. Carrasco and Kluber could dominate in a short series. Don't get me wrong. And they do have 3 guys in the bullpen. If Miller comes back healthy, they could be very dangerous. Last year, the Indians won 22 in a row in September and nothing to show for it, the first week of October. This year, maybe it's something different. But I think the 3 teams we all know as we get ready here for the final rush to postseason play are the Astros, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. And we will see what develops here with those 3 teams. I think a champion will come from those 3. I will not change there. I don't see anybody coming out of nowhere to upset that. I know the NL team, the Dodgers, they have to be accounted for. There's certainly the Cubs are dangerous, although I don't like their pitching. They have to be somewhat accounted for. And who knows? Watch a team like Milwaukee win the whole thing. I do like the Philly top of the rotation with Nola and Arrieta. So if they did win the division, and did make the playoffs, those two could carry them far. I mean, Nola and Arrieta just pitched great at Fenway Park. So the NL is wide open. I could make a case for any of the 5 teams that end up being in the playoffs, and I think right now those 5 teams will be, most likely the Cubs, the Dodgers, I'll say Phillies, and then take your pick of the other 2, Colorado, Arizona, Milwaukee, Atlanta. Take your pick. But I can throwing darts. I mean, I can blindly, I can take a team out of the hat, and I can do it 7 or 8 different times, have an equal chance each one of that team going to the World Series. Again, in the American League, I think those are the 3 best teams. I mean, as simple as that, I think they're the 3 best teams. The Osuna thing with the Astros will be interesting about how that plays itself out as far as the clubhouse dynamic is concerned. And we have a hearing that's shortly, if not today, up in Toronto with Osuna, but the 75-game suspension. We'll see what comes down with that. The Astros won a championship last year without a closer. I don't know why they felt they had to go out there and bring in a guy like Osuna so desperately this year, when in fact Osuna isn't guaranteed anyway. I know no closer is guaranteed, but it's not Osuna. But they felt they had to do that, so we'll see how that plays itself out. Yankees got some injuries right now. You have to wonder with obviously a couple of guys. Sonny Gray got bombed again today. This was a big game for the Yankees today, and they're losing badly to the Orioles 7-1. So that is not good going into that Red Sox series, which by the way has lost a lot of life because no Sale. No Judge, no Sanchez, and maybe no Happ. That's not as big a deal, Happ, as Sale is. But, it's almost like both teams are going in there limping a little bit, and both teams, based on where they are with their starting 8 and their staff, would take a split. So I don't know if there's going to be much of a read on Red Sox Yankees in these next 4 games. We'll spend a lot of time on that tomorrow, as there would have been if, in fact, everybody went in there guns a-blazing. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get a little closer to Thursday night, and then, of course, Friday, Saturday, 4 o'clock, and the Sunday night game. But, baseball, listen, the Pirates took a chance with Chris Archer. I think his contract makes him overrated. He's got a great favorable team contract. He's got a live arm, but the results have not been there for 3 years in a row. The Pirates have a good pitching coach. They're confident they can, sort of find something. I'm not a big, I think Archer's a little overrated. I don't think the Pirates are making the playoffs anyway, but they have him under control for 4 seasons. I guess that they figured it was worth giving up a player like an Austin Meadows, who I guess they feel, is a former first-round pick, the whole 9 yards. Tampa runs for him. So we keep an eye on that. I like what Milwaukee did. With the 2 players. I like what the Orioles did. The Orioles, there was no reason why the Orioles went out there and, would keep the players. You could make an argument they should have done this in the offseason, especially with Machado, but that's a proud baseball town. That's a franchise that normally doesn't waver about going head-to-head with the Red Sox or the Yankees. It's a franchise that 2 years ago made the playoffs and could have won that first game against Toronto if, in fact, Zach Britton had pitched a little earlier than he ended up doing so. So I'm not going to kill the Orioles for that. They obviously unloaded players, plenty of them, everybody from Darren O'Day to Brad Brock to whomever they did, and they got even Kevin Gausman. They got a lot of players back. God knows God knows about these prospects. I am a little disappointed. I'm not disappointed, but, it always befuddles me of why a big player like an Adam Jones, Carlos Delgado once, eons ago decided not to go to L.A. I think it was L.A. in a trade from Toronto, and they're out of it. It always befuddles me of why a player who's got 10-5 rights, has every, nobody can say he doesn't have the rights to do what he's doing, veto trades, but I find that very odd that a guy who is basically never tasted any postseason success. He's been in 2 divisions. He's been in 1 divisional series, and he's played in 1 ALCS, and he's never hit in a postseason. I find it very odd that a guy like Adam Jones, who could walk after this year anyway, and then pick a place he wants to go performed for. Very surprised a guy like Adam Jones decides that he'd rather not go to, say, Philadelphia or a team that is assured to win a championship. Well, first of all, there's no team that is assured. If you go with that, then it would only be the American League 3 teams. I mean, who knows? You get to a World Series, you only got to win 4 games. We've seen stranger things, but Adam Jones decided that, Philadelphia, a team that's in first place, was not worth an opportunity. Surprises me. If that's Christopher Russo, who's labored long and hard for a second division team now for 2 years in a row, that's never come close to being in a World Series, that does not have a great postseason record, I'd run to get into a postseason opportunity. I'd run to get, but not him. So that's odd, very odd. They can't trade Chris Davis. We know that. He's got an absurd contract. So they $161 million they signed. So they can't trade him. Adam Jones, they tried to trade. He said no. So the baseball is what it is right now. Very active. The most active stretch with trades that we have seen in a long time. Normally that deadline has become a dud. This year there wasn't a unbelievable talk about for 2-day trade, but I mean, there were moves made yesterday. The aforementioned Archer was a big trade. Dozier was a significant trade. I mean, it wasn't like nothing was done the last day before the deadline, the last few hours. There was things done. So now we see where the dust settles and we see where we are here once we get to October. I say it like I've said it all year round. Houston, Boston, and the Yankees are by far the 3 best teams. I would pick the Yankees to win it all. I am a little worried about their long journey throughout the postseason if it includes a wild card. Beating the A's or Seattle with Severino and then not having Severino nary once, only once, against the most likely Red Sox in the ALDS, and then getting through that series and then having to deal with the Astros most likely. I think that's a very to win 8 games against those 3 teams. That's a tall order. So I might be a little off the Yankees right now, but I can't go there because I've stuck with them all year. I still think the Yankees, pound for pound, are the best team. Today notwithstanding. Nice to have you aboard on a busy afternoon. It's a Wednesday. We continue right after this. Don't go away.
Lock it in. It's Mad Dog.
Ready to cover the world of sports.